Welcome on in my Ash Wings to the next installment of A to Z, the Commoner series. Today we are going over Benji, the first in the letter B of the Flesh and Blood heroes in the Commoner format, and it's a Tiger Benji at that. So I want to go over this build a little bit here, talk a little bit about how their play style is due to be should you wish to play Benji at your own Commoner events, and then we'll do some gameplay, kind of show off what exactly the deck can do, how I would sideboard into certain things, and then, of course, talking over a recap in how the deck performed over the course of our couple of games. As always, we're going through A to Z for the Commoner format, and so with this, there's certainly a lot of decks and a lot of work to be done, so I appreciate all the support y'all are giving me here. Make sure to go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you really want to keep the train rolling, you can feel free to become a channel member as well, and I certainly appreciate every part of, giving that you do to me. It means a lot. So anyway, let's talk a bit about Benji here. So Benji is a ninja hero young, starts at 17 life, which is already a huge deficit for a deck that doesn't want to block. But notably, with that being the case, Benji's ability is one of the most evasive out of all of the heroes, I think, because their ability says your attack action cards with 2 or less power can't be defended by cards from hand. And then the first time an attack action card you control hits each turn, your next attack gains +1. Now, what does that mean? Well, it effectively means that most of your deck is going to consist of these low to the ground power cards with really great on hits. Sometimes you want to sprinkle in a little bit of those reds because it is still a lot of power, but being able to sneak out a lot of that additional damage by swinging a bunch of low power attacks that your opponent can't block with cards from hand effectively just means they have to have a block card in arsenal, something like a springboard somersault or a sink below, something that's a defense reaction. And then also they have to have a good armor suite going into a ninja. So let's talk a little bit about the suite here. We are running the entirety of the Tolarian Community College Tiger package here, which is the Mask of Three Tails, the Blood Scent, the Pouncing Paws, and the Tearing Shuko. This is, of course, a Tiger build. So the opportunity for you to get Tigers is significantly more frequent in this format, or in this hero, I should say, because you have cards that allow you to get those on hits, create a Tiger. So you're going to be making Tigers pretty frequently here. Then you have Tiger Taming Kakara, which is the Tiger build here. Effectively, you're going to be able to swing this and then be able to swing one of those Tigers for an additional 1 point of value, which your opponent won't be able to block from hand. So you're going to continue to get more and more, chip damage off effectively. But the main deck here consists of 6 copies of Biting Breeze in all colors here. Biting Breeze is kind of your go-to. This is going to hit when it does create a Tiger. The 3, they can block, but the 2 and the 1 is going to be harder to block. And still, when it hits, you're going to create a Tiger. So that is important. You, of course, are running Bittering Thorns red because it's one of the best reds in the format. But notably, with the introduction of the Armory deck Ira, Bittering Thorns is now in blue, which is very interesting. And so with this being the case, you can certainly go ahead and pay into this, swing with a blue Bittering Thorns. Your opponent's not going to be able to block it properly, so you get to go ahead and get a bunch of value on an additional +1 on your next attack. Breed Anger, because you're going to be making so many Crouching Tigers, this is a really good 0 for 4 with Go Again, and it'll make you another Crouching Tiger for any additional attacks you may want to get off. We're also running the Flex Claws, the reds and the blues. The reds are for damage. The blues are for damage as well, technically, because they can't block from hand with these cards. But again, it's another way for you to create a Crouching Tiger. Leg Tap, 1 for 4, easy peasy. Razor Reflex. This is because your opponent's not going to be able to block with a card from hand. If you can catch them on a turn in which they're probably not going to have a D-react, you can pump up one of these 2-power attacks up to a 5 and kind of take them out in that regard. Scar for a Scar, again, you're not going to block and you're already on the back foot by having 17 life. So Scar for a Scar is a really great pick. It's just a 0 for 4 with Go Again. Can't be too mad at that. Surging Strike is another card we have in here. Now, Surging Strike normally comes in, it's for 5, but I do think Surging Strike has a good play here just because it starts off the turn with a large power attack that your opponent can block. And that means the rest of your attacks are going to be sneaking through because there are going to be a bunch of these blues and yellows. You have Untamed, red, and blue. These are, again, other ways to pump up the power of your Crouching Tigers. Be Like Water. This is a way that you can actually turn on a bunch of other effects if you're looking to do something along the lines of getting some combos out. But Be Like Water, honestly, you don't have head jab, you don't have like Open the Centers or anything like that. You don't have what do you call it? You don't have rising knee thrusts or anything like that. So at this point, it's pretty much just a 0 for 2 that has Go Again, and you can name it something if you really want, but you don't need to do that. Deadly Duo. This is a great one here because, one, it's got Benji on the card, so obviously it's got to go in a Benji deck. But when this hits, the next attack action card with 2 or less base power, you play this combat chain gets +2, and the blue also says the same. It just comes in for 1 point of damage. So they're able to get through your opponent's defenses, and then it also pumps up your next attack. So you could attack with this for 2, and then have a Bittering Thorns come in for, have a Bittering Thorns here come in for 4, and then come in with another Bittering Thorns. Like, there's a lot of value in pitching a blue there for that. Nib at the heels. Most of your stuff is going to be under 3 base power, so having an attack reaction here to pump it up by 1 is going to be really good, especially if your opponent's blocking with armor. Since that's only the real way they're able to block a lot of these low power attacks, they're going to have to block with armor. And in that case, you can go ahead and pump up that 1 power attack to a 2, and then you'll be all set to go from there. Next up, then, we also have Pouncing Key. Again, we're going to have Tigers in the deck, and Pouncing Key is going to allow us to go for 2 Go Again on our turn, so pretty good. It also blocks 3. I'd like to see that too. And then Soulbead Strike, again, this has an on hit of if it hits, it gets Go Again, and it's going to hit unless your opponent has the armor to block it out, so effectively, this is going to be the best value you can get for this here. With most people also only having the ability to play with things like, you'll mostly see people play with stuff like Blade Beckoner. Blade Beckoner is only going to get 1 point of value off of the attack actions. They obviously can block a Tiger Taming Kakara as well, but in most cases, you're expected to see that their block value on their armor is going to be really reserved. So they're going to have to try really hard to make sure to not overblock on their stuff, so that way they can prevent these really powerful on hits. Arcane Polarity, red, obviously, we don't want to pitch. We have a lot of blues in the deck, but we don't want to pitch to Arcane Barrier a whole lot. But we do have AB3 because in the case that we do go up against a wizard, being at 17 life is already like pretty easy to kill. So because we're running so many blues, we're okay doing this and pitching them into AB. But notably, if a point of damage gets leaked through, we can go ahead and then play Arcane Polarity, which is great for us because it means that we get to gain life when, we're already at a life deficit. We're also running a lot of blues, and so things like Battlefront Bastion isn't a bad card to play. Normally, you're not going to be attacking with this. You're going to want to block out and then use that 1 point of prevention to block out something else. But being able to send 7 is still really good. So if your opponent's on like they don't really like to block, or maybe you're trying to get over their big breakpoint, or even if they're an illusionist and you're trying to use Phantasm, Battlefront Bastion is not a bad pick into there. And then, of course, we got the Null Rune Hood, the Null Rune Robes, and the Tide Flippers here. Tide Flippers is going to be great because it also does technically just target all the things that are in our deck besides the 3 and up power cards. And it's got Arcane Barrier, so it's not bad. It's Snapdragon Scalers specifically for a deck like this, and then also Arcane Barrier. So not bad. But do remember that if you do activate this attack reaction, you destroy the Tide Flippers, which means you'll go down to AB2. So really make sure that it is something that you are hoping to get Go Again with before getting deeper into that. But anywho, let's go ahead and get into our games and see whether or not we can get some wins on our boy Benji here. All right, looks like our first opponent is a Scurv. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go first. We're going to give him the old hello, good luck, have fun. Scurv is going to be pretty interesting in this format just because they don't have things like your what is it? Money or your life. So Commoner is going to be a little bit harder for Scurv, I think. But notably, we're going to go ahead and try and send it here and see how much we can get through. So we have a lot of value here. They've got, what is this? They've got 4 block on their equipment. Theoretically, we can go ahead and do this, pitching the red Flex Claws. You know what? We'll actually pitch the Be Like Water. So that will hit unless they block with equipment, which they more than likely will not. So we get a Tiger. Now this Tiger, notably, the next attack action you control hits, the next attack this turn gets +1. So Tiger Taming Kakar is going to come in for 3, which is pretty good. Or we can have Flex Claws come in for 5. You know what? I think we will go ahead and we will just Tiger Taming Kakara for 3. And then we'll keep the Flex Claws on us. They can block with a card from hand here. Because this would have had Crouching Tiger come in for 1. Now this can block, right? You can obviously block 3 here. They got 2 cards out of it, so they really are filtering their hand in this regard. I guess theoretically we can send Flex Claws here. I don't know that we need to do that though. I think we want to set up for a pretty big turn. Leak some damage. And then notably, we have a wide suite of, you know, whatever the hell we want here. We could theoretically try to go for a little bit more, but I think we are just going to go ahead. I don't like keeping 2 float here, but I think it is just important that we preserve our life. I don't think there's too much Scurv can do to send that big damage at us outside of getting boats or getting gold. So it's going to be kind of hard for them. But we'll see. Golden Tipple, obviously, very, very good card. They've got the pummels, so that's interesting. 3 here. I'm almost wondering whether or not this is a turn in which we attempt to do like some really crazy stuff. But I think I will go ahead and say no blocks here. I could probably get rid of a Soul Bead Strike here, but what I really want to make sure is that I'm not going to get, now that we know there's a pummel in the deck, I'm not sure when we'll have the opportunity to do that, but Alishar for 4. Okay. Let's see. Tiger, Flex Claws. So theoretically, we want to keep 1 blue for all of this. It could probably be the Flex Claws. So let's just block 3 here. Preserve some life. We want to keep ourselves less than our opponent, just because we have those Scarfer scars in the deck. And notably, I mean, we're going to be able to block okay, but really we're coming in with a lot more additional damage. So I think we'll do, let's see, we'll do this first, pitching this Flex Claws. So we'll send in 4. We'll see whether or not they block 4. And this on hit will get me a Tiger, so kind of important that that gets blocked, I would think. Okay, it's not going to get blocked. There's a sink below. Okay. So it'll filter their hand. I think it's going to be pretty easy. So notably, we got rid of our Tiger generation here, which kind of sucks, but I think we will do this. Again, we'll try to threaten another Tiger from their hand. The more we try to strip from their hand, the better. So this will allow us to get a Tiger. Sweet. Benji's ability is online. So now we can go ahead and we can send a We can send the Kakara for 3. And then Tiger for 1. And then Tiger for 1. They're not going to be able to block that. 2 go again. We've got no float. So notably, we can attempt to do more here, but I think we need to get them in a pretty sweet spot. I think we just do this to get something here. Nip at the heels. Okay. So that doesn't help me any, but it gives me a arsenal target. Okay. This hand is not going to do us much here, but it could block. We pitch the Swindlers. Again, not a whole lot of support for Scurv here, but notably with me not really wanting to block, if there's ever a turn in which something comes in and there's like this, right? Obviously, this could be more than 6. This could be 10. So I would say if we block 3, do more, we can then get rid of the Razor Reflex maybe. Yeah, I think we're just going to block 3 here. No pummel. A bark. Okay. So this is just 8. Very interesting. I think we're able to threaten a lot on our turn here. Because what do we have? 4 into 4 into Razor Reflex into, well, I guess we want to try doing a little bit. Well, yeah, because we have this here too. So yeah, we're in a good spot, I think. I think we might be able to win off this here. Because notably we have this, so we have 1 extra floating resource here. So we're going to go ahead and send in the Scar for a Scar. They'll probably give us like nearly all of their equipment here, but they're going to want to save their equipment for when I'm coming in for 2. Because then that's damage that they can't block. Now, notably, this would be kind of funny to do is at, but okay, they do have the sync. Okay. Actually might be fine. Curious if I can do this. Let's send this. So we'll have to, they'll pretty much have to give me their whole hand if they want to give me equipment. I am going to, no, I should Razor Reflex the Tiger if they're going to have a D-React here. Okay. We are then going to go do this. We are going to make a Tiger. We're going to send a Tiger. It's going to come in for 3, which is fine. Razor Reflex. And then Nip at the heels for 5. And that is game, unless they have the D-React here. Nice. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Good game. Good game. So that was our first match here into a Scurv. Not too terrible. We definitely snuck it away a little bit here with a really, really tall Tiger. But that's, you know, this name of the game, right? Sending all this damage and hoping you can get your opponent to 0. So let's go ahead and get into the next one and see if we get a W over there as well. All right. Looks like our opponent here is a Fang. So let's go ahead and see, what do we need to take out? I don't think we need to do anything here. I think we're actually fine keeping our whole static build here. Let's go ahead and just send it. That's exactly what we're going on. So we're going to send it here. I think the only thing we have to really worry about Fang here is that they are going to have an okay suite of armor, which they certainly do. And I think that's probably going to help them a lot in this game. But we're going to be able to start bringing them down a little bit. And notably, a lot of their cards are going to block for 2. Their reactions tend to block for 2. And with it being a fairly red line deck, I think it might even be better that we just block where we can. Now, notably, we also block for 2, but not terrible here. I think we probably just... We're already at less life. Let's just block 4 here, in case this gets pumped up to 4, which it did. So that's good. They have a yellow Sink Below in their deck. Interesting. And a Scar Tissue. Okay. Yeah, sure. So that's pretty good for them, I guess. So I am marked. I'm going to swing their other dagger at me. I'm curious. Now, obviously, with me having 3 less health than my opponent, it's going to be pretty important that I... Oh, good. Okay. I was like, ooh, do we get anything here? Let's just go ahead and do our casual. We might even keep the Bittering Thorns in the arsenal here. Now, they don't have any fealty, so we don't have to worry about doing anything there. Okay, we'll take a 4. Sure. And we could also theoretically leave the... Notably, when this hits, the next attack's going to get +1. So this could come in for 4 also, threatening the same kind of damage, and maybe even leaving the Breed Anchor in here. Okay, they're going to block 3, I'd imagine. And again, we're going to see good value off of the blocking here from our opponent. The downfall for us is that, okay, we got a red out of their hand, so they're going to lose out on a +4 pump value. I think the hard part about this game for them is trying to keep all the cards to keep fealty. But we do have a good amount of armor here. We can obviously block 3 on an armor piece. We should be fine just losing some life here, because this is just Gakara. This is just 2. But I think we just ended up, obviously we just had a lot here. Okay, block 3 is fine. That actually works out great. So I'll just pass. Put this in Arsenal. Okay, this is a pretty good hand to keep. Notably, they're going to really only be able to send, what, probably 4? Which is not bad for us, considering. So not too terrible here. They're going to be able to send 1. We could, again, they could play whatever's in their hand. I think there's a world in which I probably just block. I want to block 2 so they don't get a fealty, though. Just in case that is a pump there. We can get rid of maybe the flex clause here too. Yeah, I think that'll be Yeah, I think we'll just do this. Save our armor for a different turn. Okay, good. Didn't want to overcommit to that. So this turn is going to be... Let's go ahead and send an Untamed. for 4. Now, notably, if they let this hit, Biting Breeze is going to come in for 3 or for 2. So, no, for 3. So I'm going to need to come in with Tiger Taming Kakar first and then come in with Breed Anger. Okay. Or not Breed Anger, that thing. Send Tiger Taming Kakara for 3. I'm trying to swing with our stuff as much as possible here. They're giving me 2. Okay, and I'm assuming they're just going to block this with their armor. If they do, that's fine. We get 2 pieces of armor from them. They have a 3 card hand. Okay. Now we could try and send the Breed Anger here. Because right now we have +2 on a Tiger. So there might be a world in which we pop this here. But no, I think we're trying to keep them on the back foot. So we're just trying to rip their armor from them. So I'm fine waiting that out. 2 blocks in the hand. We're probably going to want to send... I mean, the Flex Clause isn't terrible here. Okay, so this is just 4. So really we could block 2 and then block with maybe the Biting Breeze. Yeah. Well, no, we probably want to block with the Flex Clause. No, we probably want to block with the Bittering Thorn. So what is this? Send 1, send 4. Unless we make a Tiger, we need to block with this, so that's fine. Okay, they're going to pledge fealty anyway. Still not going to get another fealty token, so that's fine. Now we just need to keep them off of a turn here. So we're going to send Flex Clause, pitch. We're going to try and make a Tiger. And notably, a lot of our like yellow and blue cards are missing, effectively. Okay, Fate for Scene's fine. So we are through 2 Fate for Scenes already. We have not seen a Sink Below yet. And then we want to make sure we could send this. They can't block it. And then we get +4, +1 onto here. I just don't feel like it's time yet, you know? I don't feel like it's time. I feel like we need to send this here. Because notably, we can try and get a card from them here. Because if we try to get them to force block out, they don't get to keep anything. So let's try that then. So we're just going to send this and see if it actually hits. Okay, they're blocking 3. So they down to 2 cards in their hand. I mean, they obviously have to have something. So we're just going to keep it. I don't think that there's anything they can truly like threaten a lot of right now. So this isn't a terrible hand, although I wish it was better. Okay, there's a pledge. Pass. the 1 dagger. I'll just block 1 here. Sure. No need to get you 3 daggers or anything more than 3 fealty. Okay, so our turn here is certainly going to have to be start with the Bittering Thorns. Yeah. We're going to start with the Bittering Thorns. For 4. If it hits, we'll then get to go ahead and send the Biting Breeze for 5, which is pretty good, I gotta say. We could also send Kakara for 2. We're really getting rid of a lot of our reds here, which is great because that means that our blues are going to be able to come in and like cinch a win. We're also getting rid of all their D-reacts and things like that, so not too terrible here. If they give us 2 cards, we're in a good spot, I think. Let's see. Yeah, because they've used pretty much all their armor. They've 1 piece here, so it's going to get pretty nasty for them later on in the game. Choosing what other card to block with here, maybe. They are thinking. Yeah, because they're going to have to keep their fealty if they want to actually do anything with their turn. And I mean, they're certainly up on stuff. They're down 2 pledge fealties already. They should have some Proclaim Vengeances, maybe. They have 1 more for the Drakai that they could send. They're blocking 4 here. Okay. So they block 4. I think we can go ahead and maybe just send. Let's see, we can send Kakara. Or we can send the Biting Breeze. I think sending the red Biting Breeze is correct here. That way we can get a Tiger. Awesome. So we get a Tiger. Benji's ability is now active. We can go ahead and then send the Tiger. And then we can, I mean, still there's a world in which we want to send this, create a Crouching Tiger. But it would essentially come in for nothing. Let's just try to, I guess, send stuff here. We do get to draw a card. It's pretty good for us if they don't block here. So, like, I will be certainly drawing a card here. Okay, they want to keep their hand. I'm gonna mask. Okay, we got a Surging Strike. That's kind of bad for us, I think, but not terrible, I guess. We're then going to pop this, send this for 2, go again. Okay, we're really bringing them down. So they're trying to really preserve life here, which is great for us. We're just going to go ahead and pass. Because now they're at 4, so it's going to be like crazy hard for them to get through this, right? They're not going to be able to block effectively through here unless that's a D-react in their arsenal, which I doubt it. They're not really going to be able to do a whole lot. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and say nothing here. There's quite literally, I don't think, anything they can do to kill me at 14. So, and there's nothing they can do to rip a card from my hand. Okay. There you go. They didn't let it resolve first. There we go. 4, go again. Sure. Get a fealty token and I'm marked again. Okay, Sisters of Fire. It's for 5. Blaze Headlong for 4. Go again. Gotcha. Now we know they don't have anything in hand, so we win. This is literally how we win. So now what we get to go ahead and do is we can send a Be Like Water. This is going to come in for 2. They're not going to be able to block it. They can block with a card from their hand, which is fine. And then what we do is we can pop a Pouncing Paws here and create a Crouching Tiger, send a Crouching Tiger for 1, and then send a Untamed for 4, and then send a Soul Bead Strike for 2. Or send a Tiger Taming Kakara, then a Soul Bead Strike for 2. Yep. We're not going to pay for anything here, though. No. We're going to pass. Okay. We'll see if they use their 1 here. You use their block power and their armor, probably. So we're going to threaten that. Sure. Quite literally can't block from hand. So now we just get to send a Soul Bead Strike for 2. And then we win. And that is a game of Benji. It's nice because, I mean, yeah, they can't block with their armor. So unfortunate for them, but that is the case. Good stuff. Good game there, my friend. Good game. Hit you with the good game. Okay, they're going to mark me. Nice. Yep, and there it is. Like, they had Sink Below in hand, a Hunt a Killer, like, pretty good stuff. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Benji and how we feel like it felt in the commoner format. All right, so we got a W on both of our games here in the commoner format. I was pretty ecstatic seeing this. I know Benji starting at such low life oftentimes is really, really difficult, especially if your opponent is a hyper aggro deck. But Benji being able to just sneak through, still send a lot of these really powerful 1 for 4 or 0 for 4 attacks to threaten armor and threaten on hits, and then come in later in the game with a bunch of these 2 power attacks. Normally, whenever you're sending, late in the game, whenever you're going to have to send a blue to attack or something of the sort, it usually feels really bad because you're not threatening as much damage. You don't feel that you're getting a lot of cards out of your opponent's hand. But the good thing about Benji is that you don't have to worry about all that because you can just continue to send those cards and your opponent can't block them. So when you're in the throes of battle and you're at 1 and your opponent's at 4, and your opponent goes, okay, cool, I just need to block out their turn and send 1 point of measly damage to my opponent in order for me to win. Well, the good news is that it's hard for them to block that. And especially if they utilize their armor a lot early in the game. With the Blade Beckoner stuff, it's really, really good to have those 1 point of value on the armor. But the downfall is that once you use it on an attack action, you can't use it again on another attack action. You can use it on a piece of equipment or on a weapon, but you can't use it on an attack action. And so in doing so, it is important to, it's kind of a, do you use it, do you not, right? Because like when you want to block with it, when somebody comes in with like Bittering Thorns, you go, okay, this I need to block with a piece of my armor, which makes sense. A 3 block from hand, 1 piece of armor blocks out of Bittering Thorns. Unless they have the Razor Reflex, then it doesn't. But even still, in that scenario, that is the correct thing to do in most cases, is block with 1 block in the armor and then block with 3 block from hand. But when doing that, it eases up the ability for Benji to be able to just sneak in a lot of these low power attacks. So when you swing with something like a Be Like Water or a Deadly Duo or a Soul Bead Strike for 2, like this is always going to hit if your opponent does not have equipment or a D-reaction arsenal. If they have a D-reaction arsenal, they can use it. But they can't block from hand. So it's really, really important that if you catch your opponent off guard, you're able to make a lot of great choices there. And notably, again, that's, you know, the weaving of Benji is really, really good because, again, as you saw, I came in for 2 points of damage with a Be Like Water, and then my next attack would get pumped up by 1. But I didn't want to send a Soul Bead Strike in for 3. I could have sent a what do you call it? A Untamed for 5 if I really wanted to, or even a Tiger Taming Kakara for 3. But sneaking in another 1 point of damage with that Crouching Tiger that I made is at least enough for me to warrant that happening. We could even start off with playing a Tiger Taming Kakara and then attacking with an attack action. That way that Tiger comes in for 2 instead of 1. So I think the weaving of the weapon attack probably would have been better in that situation, because Benji's ability does not trigger on the first attack that hits. It's the first attack action that hits. So if your weapon swings, it doesn't trigger anything, especially if it hits. So just some weaving I still need to learn. It wasn't the perfect games at all, but being able to sneak past your opponent's defenses is really a key part of Benji. And I think it's a great way to go about making sure that you are presenting the most damage you can early game with all these 1 for 4s and 0 for 4s like Scar for a Scar, and then being able to send in these really, really small hits whenever your opponent's a little bit lower. Obviously, like we saw in the Fang game, in which you had, they just took everything. They decided to no longer block my attacks. And because they decided to no longer block, I decided this was the best opportunity for me to send everything I possibly could at him. And that's just how that works. It's just how I want to make sure that if I can threaten as much damage as possible and they're trying to come in for a kill, then I'm going to try and get them close to death. That way my turns become significantly easier. So anywho, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode of Benji in the commoner format, please make sure to go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know how you felt about Benji. Also, like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you have not already. We are moving on up to 2,700 subscribers. So thank you all so much for continuing to support Lil Ol' Me as we continue to talk about the format that maybe me and only 10 people care about, commoner, as well as Project Blue. We're hoping to do some more stuff. I hope to do this exact series for those of you who are watching this video. I would do this exact series for Project Blue as well when we learn more about it, when it becomes Silver Age effectively. But for right now, I wanted to go about just doing it for Commoner, so that way Commoner fans enjoy this format and this content. And then we move into Project Blue when we learn more about Silver Age. So again, thank you so much for watching today's episode. It really does mean a lot, and I hope you enjoyed this series so far. As always, thank you, and I hope you continue to have fun in the flesh and blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in the next installment of A to Z, the Commoner series.